What is going on, our fellow Summit Chasers? Welcome to another episode. This is going to be a little bit of a different look. We're changing things up, but welcome to the Summit Coffee Club. Like I said, we were running. This is all over the place. We were running 3 live shows a week. Really, we wanted to test things out and see what was working and what wasn't working, and which one, obviously, that we liked to do more, and which one y'all like to watch and interact with more. And the Summit Coffee Club, it gained some traction pretty quickly. And obviously, it was the most fun. We even made hats. I don't know why I'm not wearing mine right now, other than I committed to the shower, so I wanted to show off my done hair. But this one's more interactive. It's fun. We can get people more involved, and we can kind of showcase a little bit of who we are and what we love to do a little bit and be our authentic selves. So we're going to have how it's going to kind of go moving forward is we're actually going to have the Summit Chasers team be on most of these calls. They might look a little bit differently as far as who we bring on, but there's always going to be more than one. There's going to be a kind of a panel. And today we got the 3 ladies of the team on today. But really quickly, we just had our first cohort for our 5-day strategy core challenge, and that's what you were looking at earlier, and it went so good. It was obviously, when you're doing these things for the first time, it's just kind of like, I don't know how it's going to go, how is it going to be received, and it went much better than expected. So I'm going to bring up my co-founder here, Adrina. We're going to talk about it for 2 seconds. And then you don't want to just hear it from us, because obviously it's our challenge. We're going to say it's the best thing since sliced bread. But we want you to hear it from others that were here. But really quickly, Adrina, I know I just popped that on you. You're like, I wasn't ready.
I know. Hi, I wasn't ready at all.
Here you are. But from how do you think the first, because obviously when you're putting something, it's something as intimate as the kind of the way we put on this challenge. Like we
Yeah.
brought 10 people. We cap it at 10 people. We brought 10 people from different walks of life, completely different businesses, they're in different places in their business, right? Evolutions and phases of their business. But what was kind of like a big takeaway for you as we kind of went through that week?
Oh, it was so great. Like Zach said, I think when we were talking, this is so cheesy, but when we were talking at the end of it, we kind of asked for some feedback on the spot on that very last day. And when I tell you, my heart was just like, oh my gosh, yes, yes, yes. Like this ended up being everything that we wanted it to be, hoped that it would be, and then also exceeded those expectations. And I think that one of the biggest takeaways was just hearing people say that they got an actionable plan that they could work on. It wasn't just like, oh, this could be great as an idea overall. They were like, I know exactly what I need to do going forward. So I think that that was an absolute standout moment. And then the value that everybody saw with working with people who were in completely different industries, different stages in their businesses, because it kind of allows you to gain other people's perspectives of people that are not as familiar with your exact situation. And I think that that is huge too.
Yeah, I would like to second all those things, because when you're going through it, especially like we created it, and like it's stuff that we've done before, whether it's with our own businesses or just with a ton of our clients, and we've done it before. We know it works. We know the content, but then to present it in that format, right? 5 days, because we've done a lot of, especially myself, I've done a lot of like these strategy business planning workshops, or they're not really challenges, but events and that type of stuff. And I always walked away like I'm either more confused or I don't feel like I'm clear in what I need to do moving forward. And that was always something that frustrated me. But then I've also done some challenges and some programs before where I really liked the format, but there wasn't any like actionable takeaways. But I loved interacting with other business owners. I liked being able to workshop through ideas and getting different perspectives and that kind of stuff. So how could we kind of bring some of those ideas and concepts together and make something really, really impactful? But when you're creating it, it's not that it's new necessarily, but the format of it is new. The delivery is new. So when we're going through it, because everybody was very locked in, like they were very focused. So they weren't really there wasn't like that moment during the 5 days until really the 5th day, maybe 4th or 5th day, where I was like, I don't know how it's going. Like, I think it's going pretty good, but I don't know. But everybody was so locked in. Obviously, we're on other ends of, some people were like on the other side of the country. Like literally had somebody from Poland. Is that where she?
Yeah.
Yeah.
She was from
There. So we're like, I don't know how it's going, but then at the end to get that feedback was like, oh. Again, don't take it from us. Take it from some of the individuals that were actually in the challenge. So
with us kind of shifting our business model, I felt kind of lost in a way. Like it was something that needed to be, sat down and thought through and strategically done, and had all the intentions to do that. But this really helped actually put all those feelings into words and actionable steps, which is so helpful, like beyond measure helpful. So thank you.
I told my husband last night that I realized I'm doing it wrong, but the reality is I'm not doing enough of the right things, and this has really helped me take a step back. And then also talking to everybody else in the group, a lot of people are facing similar challenges, and hearing them talk about like, I'm going to look at it this way or that way. It's very helpful to have that kind of insight that you wouldn't normally have. So I think that's really valuable, and I appreciate all you guys. But yeah, this has been great for me.
Scared at first, I would find out so much competition and all this, and that's like impossible. But through this program, I've learned how special we are, and just how freaking absolutely unique what we're trying to do is, and just how visionary it really, really is, and all the ways that we can implement it. Now we have like an actionable plan. Like this has really brought us closer together as a relationship and as business partners. So thank you. It's been amazing.
I feel like I can now step into taking responsibility and shedding my imposter syndrome and knowing that I can handle things. And then also this is whole challenge and being on the road. This has just been a game changer. So thank you so much.
And having this week, like actually opening our eyes again, like, hey, remember that this, remember these concepts. And if you put this together, you will succeed. And it's just what I loved about this was that it brought me back again to what I know. It remember, okay, you know this, just you have to practice, you have to have this in mind and just share it with your whole company and you will succeed. Thank you for putting this week together.
Yeah, so you heard it from them, like it was, and you heard it from people where this was their very first business, to like Santi. I think he was the second last or the last one that was speaking. He has owned businesses for I think a decade and has multiple of them. So it's super impactful, and we're very excited to keep continue with these. So we have a cohort that is starting November 19th. So if you want some information on that, shoot us a message, and then we will see if you can qualify for it. Because again, this is a very tight-knit, intimate group. We need people that are going to be in there. Yes, thank you, John. We need people that are in there. They're going to be taking it seriously. Adrena, remember typing when your mic is on? I know when she types, it sounds like we're getting stampeded, and it freaks everybody out. It's not that she's aggressive. It's just, I don't know what it is. But anyways, we want to make sure that people that are in there, you can show up to all these sessions, because it's very important that you're there and that you're focused and that you're paying attention, that you're able to do that, because you want to get the most out of it as well. And it's just 5 days. It's a lot of people have been stuck in their businesses, spinning their wheels for years. So this is 5 days is nothing. So take the time, commit to it. But we want to make sure that you can. So send us a message if it's something that you want to partake in and get ready for your 2025 business planning. It will be an absolute game changer. And we know that now, and we can say that confidently. But we're done talking alone. I'm going to bring up a few of our partners. So we have Chrissy, Nifsi, and Chantal Gagnon. Just the French accent. I can't get it right every time. But anyways, we're very excited for today's panel, today's guests, mainstay guests, Chrissy and Chantal. How are we doing, ladies?
I think this needs to be like a go-to phrase for summit chasers. Adrena, remember typing? Like that was so
I know.
Let's get that on a t-shirt. So funny.
Yeah.
Totally, Adrena, typing.
Good morning. You nailed it, Zach. Great.
Did I? I love it. Sometimes I don't know. When I start talking, I get some momentum, and I don't know if it's momentum in the right direction.
You got to go with it once you start.
Exactly. If you stop, it's just weird at that point. But very excited for this new format. Again, we have some. Our team is absolutely incredible, and this is obviously going to be a testament of it. But we're going to start this out with a little weekly inspiration segment. So here's our weekly inspiration segment, and I just sprung this on everybody. So I'm going to start this week. Next week we'll get some ideas from everybody. But I've been on like a Netflix documentary binge recently. I watched the Bernie Madoff debacle, which I mean debacle doesn't put it in a perspective properly. The Bitcoin documentary, which is like a very mini version of what happened with Bernie Madoff. What else did I watch? I watched I don't know. I watched a bunch. I stay away from the like murder mystery ones because that I read something that's like not good for your mental health. So I've been staying away from those and keeping it fairly.
We watched the Fire Festival.
Oh, the Fire Festival one. That one was wild. Everybody should go watch that one. FYRE, right? FYRE. But yeah, go watch that. But yesterday, I watched one that inspired me in kind of maybe a little bit of a different way. But Martha Stewart and how she reinvented herself. Has anybody here watched the Martha Stewart documentary yet on Netflix?
No, I want to. It's on my list.
So obviously I don't agree with everything that she's ever done or said, and that's fine. But the way that she's like, I didn't realize that she was like a stockbroker. Like she was just like a lost college girl traveling the world and was like, I like food and I like the way they do it. And then she came back and became this like super successful. I don't know if she was a stockbroker, but she worked on Wall Street. And in I think it was like the late 60s, she was making like $250K a year, which what would that be today? Like
a good amount.
A good amount, I think.
Yeah.
Exactly. It would be like it'd be over $1 million for sure, right?
For sure, yeah.
Yeah, it'd be like making over $1 million, and she did that in like a matter of a few years. Like she was always that boss bitch. I feel like I can say that's our show. I can say that.
You can say whatever you want, Zach.
I can say no, I can't.
Actually, that's not true.
Every time
That's not
I
true.
do these,
$250,000 in the 1960s, according to ChatGPT, was 2.5 million.
yeah,
The equivalent
So
of 2.5 million.
she was rolling in it.
She was doing pretty good.
Yeah, she was absolutely crushing, and she would have been like in her 20s, I believe, like mid to late 20s at the time. Yeah, she was just like, yeah, I'm gonna go do this, and then just crush it. And I'm like, this is boring, or I don't want to do this. I want to bake. And then they bought a house. But anyways, the point is, her ability to reinvent herself is absolutely wild. Chrissy, what is your like? Because you're like pop culture. You're the pop culture one here. What is your like initial take before we get into the nitty gritty of Martha Stewart?
Well, I'm from Connecticut, so she also lived in Connecticut, and that's where she went to prison for insider trading too. I think that Martha Stewart is like an OG gangster. Everything she's done, she like ripped up Wall Street. She ripped up men all over town. Like she was just having like affairs, just being an animal out there. Martha Stewart literally is just a savage, and I love it. And meanwhile, she's like just in her little blonde bob in Greenwich baking muffins. And meanwhile, she's just a maniac behind the scenes, you know? So
She was
I
the
feel like-
original like, influencer. Go ahead.
I feel like that was such an iconic description of her.
Does it cover her partnership with Snoop Dogg too? Because I love that.
Yeah. Yeah,
So-
later
so
on.
unexpected for me, but now hearing about a little bit more about her past, I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah.
yeah, Snoop Dogg he's like, I see you. I see you.
Yeah, she was wild, but it was I don't know if she like paved the way for, because it was I don't know if anybody else at the time could have pulled it off, but she definitely paved the way for like some future generations, especially of women, to pull off stuff like that. Because what she created, like especially the way her business model was, which was like her at the center of it. Like she was the first one, and I have all these influencers. That's the same thing. They're at the center of their business, and that was like unheard of before. And then she had trouble getting her business to go public because of that. Because she was like, okay, what if you have a scandal? What if you get hit by a bus? And then like all of that, except for getting hit by a bus, actually happened. It was absolutely wild. But let's go through her little timeline here.
Look
So
at
she
that.
started-
Look at that grin. That all-knowing grin. Do you know what I'm saying? Go back to her, like just staring at that. She knows.
Oh yeah, like
She's like, I got this
isn't
shit.
happiness.
She's like,
This
you
isn't
guys
happiness.
think this is about chili. It's
Yeah.
not.
Yeah, exactly. Somebody's on the chopping block right now. Like, you know, yeah. But she started, I think, like her professional career started on Wall Street, absolutely crushing it. Again, making equivalent of, what did you say, Chantal? Like 2 point something million?
2.5.
2.5 million on Wall Street, just eating it up. She was the only female in that firm at the time. And then she shifted. And so I think that's when they bought the house in Connecticut.
Like, just that alone, the fact that she like navigated Wall Street in the 60s and was making bank amongst men is just, I would have loved to be at some of those events, those office events.
Mhm.
Just, you know what I mean? Just
When she talked about it, she was like, I'm not going to talk about what was going on in the back of some of those taxi cars. It's like, okay. That's wild. But
I'm not gonna lie, I'm kind of bummed that I didn't watch. I was watching Great British Bake Off on my computer while he was watching Martha Stewart, and now I'm like, damn it, I should have.
irony.
paid attention.
Paths, Audrey.
Yeah. One very wholesome, very wholesome, and one peter in a little bit. Yeah, but that's also a testament to just who we are, I think. But she was super successful, moved to her house in Connecticut and like built that house from the ground up, basically. Completely redid everything herself, fell in love with homemaking, and then started this like wildly successful catering company. Like, she catered for like celebrities, and she brought a lot of what she learned when she was traveling into like her catering and the presentations and that kind of stuff. And she got like it was $1 million business, like millions of dollars. And again, that was in the 70s. So that is whatever, times that by whatever the exchange rate would be if we were to go back in time. I don't know if that's how you say that, but whatever. So like a complete flip-flop, completely reinventing herself. And then she started she began to build her media company. And she was like, there's no magazines that encompass all of these things. So she's like, I'm going to start a magazine company. And she went to a bunch, and they turned her down because she's a woman and all this kind of stuff. And then she went to Time. So Time magazine finally gave her break. And I guess they completely sold out during a recession. So that was during like the crash in the 70s, I think, or maybe the early 80s. And she completely sold out. And then that was the beginning to her starting Omni Media, which was her soon-to-be billion-dollar media company. Isn't that crazy? Chantal's like, I didn't know any of this. This is amazing.
I'm completely captivated.
See, there's lots that you can learn from pop culture.
Sold.
Martha Stewart Living used to be delivered to our house like every week or month or whatever the installation was. And it would always be, do you remember like you had to do those magazine drives like growing up in school and stuff?
Oh my God, I completely forgot about those. The Scholastic ones?
Yeah.
And then Chrissy talked about it a little bit. She got caught doing a little bit of insider trading, although in the documentary, it made it seem like she didn't, but then the testimonials made it seem like she did. So I don't know. But then she went to prison for, was it 5 months? And then she was on house arrest for 2 years, something like that. And I guess when she came back, because now she's a felon, she wasn't allowed to be CEO. Because again, her company is a publicly traded company, so it was up to the board, and she was not allowed to be CEO. And the way they positioned it was because she didn't have as much control, because she was a control freak. Because she didn't have as much control, it kind of fell apart. And then she got swindled into doing things that she just didn't want to do, which was, I can't remember if this is the Daily Show or something like that. She had a weekly show where she would bake with celebrities that had no idea what they were doing. And that was a worse prison than actual prison. Like, she hated it, apparently. Absolutely hated it. And then she fell into obscurity. And then the unthinkable happened, and she went on the roast of Justin Bieber. And I didn't even know it was the roast of Justin Bieber. I just remember her absolutely killing everybody. Like
why Justin Bieber? What did he ever do to her? Do you know what I'm saying?
That was a random place for her to show up. But I was listening to that part, and it was so funny.
So funny. So I guess Justin Bieber went on. There was a PR thing because he was going through it. Like, he was getting arrested, and I think he went to like a detention center.
Of like.
Yeah, so they're trying to get ahead of it. So they had him on the roast, and they asked Martha Stewart because they were thinking, the way he's headed is kind of where Martha Stewart was, which is in prison and that kind of stuff. So they thought that would bring up some funny jokes and funny iterations and that kind of stuff. And it did not disappoint. Like, she completely changed her image. She went from this seemingly perfect to getting there on a national stage, teaching Justin Bieber how to make a shank. Like, it's so funny. Like, Chantal, I love the face that Chantal's making. She's like, oh my God, this is amazing. Like, you got to watch that roast, at least just her part of it. And when they make fun of her too, because she took it on the chin, and she didn't even know that they were going to make fun of her. She didn't know, and she took it on the chin. She's a pro, and then she got up there and just crushed everybody, absolutely crushed everybody. But then that shifts into Chantal's favorite part. She was sitting next to Snoop Dogg for 7 hours, getting secondhand high the whole time, and then they decided to become business partners.
Amazing.
And then she became the oldest woman to be spotlighted in Sports Illustrated.
Wild.
I mean, aren't these all like
What a wild
Easter
ride.
eggs? These are like all like Easter eggs to like who she was originally. Like, you know what I'm saying? You know, it's like she just sat up on a stage and destroyed everyone, right? And that's years of training in the 1960s on Wall Street. Everything she's ever said to a man, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, like
I was thinking that too. Now knowing her background, this all checks out.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, if you understand that, right, it makes sense. But if you don't watch the whole story, it's like, this makes absolutely no sense. But that was my inspiration for the week, is Martha Stewart. Again, I might not agree with her leadership style and whatever, that kind of stuff, but her ability to reinvent herself, absolutely insane. Like, kudos, respect. If something's not working, you can pivot, you can change.
Do you think that's like reinventing, or do you think that's just being like super authentic? Like, it almost feels like she became more and more authentic over every decade.
I think so. I could see reinvention playing a spot in like how she was able to go from being in jail, like rebranding, basically, like going from jail to now having an explosive career like that. And obviously she had an amazing career before she ended up in jail. But I do think there's a piece of reinvention in there. But I also, like, Chrissy, to your point, be yourself, be who you are, and people will either love you or hate you, but the right people are going to love you. And that's really all that matters at the end of the day. And I think that that's a really good point around the authenticity piece. Like, did she finally just say, like, this is who I am, take me or leave me? And some people love it, some people hate it, and that's fine. But yeah, the reinvention piece I see coming in after she got out of prison. Like, how do you restart your career and kind of break away from that? But she kind of leaned into it, which I also love.
Yeah, I love that. I saw something this morning too, not reinvention, but just talking about sort of restarting or when to start. And it was like, start on a Friday, start on the 31st, start at 5 p.m. It just, her story, that makes sense to me, because as you see, it doesn't matter what phase of life or age or anything like that she's in. She's like, cool, I'm going to do this now. I love it.
Yeah. And she's the type that she would have been who she needed to be in the public eye to get that reinvention, that next kind of momentum. Because when she got on the roast, she took that and like, I'm going to use this and I'm going to blow everybody out of the water. And then that's going to be my brand. And I think that it just happened to be more authentic. I think it happened to be more along the lines with who she was, just like kind of edgy, and just now she's able to, it's like she doesn't have to hide. She doesn't have to hide behind this like perceivably like perfect, persona, right? She can like start swearing and yell at people, and everyone's like, that's just Martha. Where before it was like, what is this? This is weird. And also that's just a testament to how the times have changed as well.
For sure.
From the 80s, 90s.
Once you go to jail. I think once you go to jail, the whole like perfection persona is over.
Game over, yeah.
One way. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's only one path forward, is just to be like honest. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's like, apparently after the first month, she was like everybody's mother in there. Like, she was like doing everything and teaching them how to do stuff, and because she loved to teach. That was one thing that she was, and she was good at it. She loved to teach, so she was like everybody's mother in there. After she got over the whole people are trying to beat me up and kill me and put me in solitary confinement sort of thing. But yeah, wild.
You never want to waste an opportunity. If I'm if I have Martha Stewart as a captive audience for 2 months,
Oh my God.
I'm gonna make the most of that opportunity. Do you know what I'm
Hell
saying?
yeah.
What a chance of a lifetime.
My scones are going to be perfect.
You know, like,
Yeah,
I wish that there was a series of like what I learned from Martha in prison. Like that would be so interesting to talk to the people who were in jail with her and be like, what did you learn from Martha?
Oh, that would be cool.
You know?
Reverse documentary.
Yeah.
yeah, reverse doc, exactly. Exactly. Yeah, that would be in like how she teach, because there's no cameras, there's nothing. She's just Martha
Right.
at that point, other than she can't like throw punches because then she'd get put back in solitary. But like she would just be herself, naughty, like the naughty mouth, she would just be, that'd be hilarious, absolutely hilarious. But I wonder what it would be like to have a team building exercise where you just threw your team in prison for a day.
oh
I
my
knew you
God.
were going to do something like that to transition us.
Smooth.
That was good,
I
right?
liked it.
So smooth.
Was it?
No, a day is not going to tell you anything about your team. It needs to be like 2 weeks. Do you know what I mean? Like it needs to
Okay.
get past the point of like, okay, we're just here temporarily, and then all of a sudden people just start turning into their own.
But
like,
only tell them. I see where you're going with this. Only tell them we're going to be in here for 48 hours, and
Yeah.
then but it's actually 2 weeks, and just say okay, and then because then it's gonna have day 5 and be like maybe we're not ever getting out of here.
Yeah, you're
Let's
going to have
figure this out.
alliances. There's
Yeah.
going to be like bartering that you've never even understood could even be like an economy. Do you know what I'm saying? Like the amount of bartering that would be going on, it would be like so.
Sounds like my nightmare, like a reality show nightmare.
For
That
sure.
could be a good reality show.
Remember, like Maury used to like do Scared Straight. They would send kids to prison all the time. Like Scared.
Oh, I think so.
So what would it be called? What would the name of the show be?
I have no idea.
Who's on ChatGPT right now?
Yeah, ChatGPT, look it up real quick.
It'd be called Summit Chasers and the Clink. That would be called.
Summit Chase.
Oh, I didn't think it was
I don't wanna
us
do
sending
it.
our
We're
team
doing
in
it.
there.
Yeah, I don't want to do it.
Yeah,
I'm not
it's
like
our
that.
team building activity.
Our team's already good. And we're fine. We don't need to do that. But what's some of the like the worst? I mean, that would be up there. That idea would be up
That'd be
there as far
horrible.
as probably at least the most aggressive. Maybe it is the best because I don't know anybody that's done it. But some of the worst experiences with team building exercises or team building events or retreats.
I'll start. It's
Never.
pretty mild, but I hated it. I was fresh out of college and I worked for a middle-aged man, super nice, has daughters, like really, really lovely guy, really intelligent. We hired 2 other guys. So it's me, 2 guys, and this man. And for team building, he's like, let's go whitewater rafting, which is so much fun for myself and some friends. But I was fresh out of school. And even now, like, so I'm supposed to show up in a bathing suit around 3 men that I work with. It was just uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Didn't really meet the mark for me from a team building perspective.
For
Yeah, it
sure.
almost
And
would put you in a shell. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I can piggyback off of that one because I think I was like trying to think what is the worst team building I've had, but Chantal definitely resonates with me because the company that I worked with, we were completely remote. We'd only get together once. It used to be twice a year, and then they transitioned to once a year once the company got bigger. And we would do like weekend long trips, and then they started picking places like Florida and doing boat parties and beach parties. And I was like, I don't want to be in a bikini in front of 80 and 90 people that I work with, knowing that I have to get on Zoom with you on Monday. And like, you literally know what I look like in a bikini. Like, it's just so weird for me. I feel like I might think differently if it was like our team, like very small, but like once it gets big, like the whole beach bikini, seeing your coworkers in their bathing suits is just a weird thing, in my opinion.
This is literally giving me heart palpitations about all the complaints that would come out of these trips. Like,
Oh my God, there was so much drama. Sometimes it was so great.
What's the Chrissy? You're an expert. What's the purpose of team?
I don't
You know you are. What's the purpose of?
I don't know, Zach.
team
No, I
building?
think it's like I think the goal is really to get people out of business, so you start to like get to know the person individually. You have these like shared experiences that you can like call on when you're in the heat of the of the business, right? When you're in these like high stress moments or you need to work through conflict together, it's like you have all these other experiences to be like, I know Audrina. I know we partied together. Like we laughed it up. Like I know who she is as a person. I know that this one interaction is not going to be the end of our relationship, or that she thinks this way about me because of the way she's reacting to like my business proposal. Like that is the goal. But I do think tolerance or an interest in like, definitely, you know, after everyone like went hybrid, and, you know, I think like some of like the school interactions over the last few years of graduates have gotten like, there's not as much like team interaction. So it's become really more uncomfortable, and people don't seem as interested. Like you could see the generational difference. Like me and my generation of coworkers were like, who's going to happy hour? Like, where are we going? Like, we need to go. Like we're going to this offsite. We're doing dinner. Like, you know, it's like you want to be around all these people. And I think for me, the connection with my coworkers was something that I like realized really put me into like a big funk during COVID, because like we work in different offices or we work in different markets, and it was like going to that place and seeing those people when I got there was like what was so exciting about work travel. But it was really hard not to be able to like have those interactions with people. Time zones were different. So it's just, I do wonder what the future of team building is going to be, because also my team building experience, I texted you guys about this when we were like prepping for this call, like things got real fucking weird over COVID when it came to like, team building. Like the things that people were like trying to pull out of their hat to get people to have shared experiences. I was like, we hired a laughing yoga instructor one time on a Zoom call, which was like so unhinged and like uncomfortable. And I was just like, number one, the things that people are willing to do for work in this economy, it was just like, you know, I felt so bad for this person who was like, I'm really going to lean in to laughing yoga, whatever's hiring, because I need to like make a living. And I was just like, oh my God. Like,
tell us what this is. How did it work?
Yeah, what is laughing yoga?
Yeah, I really want to
know. Do you get in a pose and laugh? Like, what is happening?
It's like all four of us are staring at each other.
Okay.
I already hate it.
Like laughing.
You're joking.
That's it. Like I feel like he doesn't even say something to prompt you. He just starts laughing. And then you're kind of like, and then people kind of start laughing because they're like, what the actual hell is happening right now? And then I guess people like turn the corner and they're like, okay, this is ridiculous. Like, we'll just laugh. And it's supposed to like, you know, build up your endorphins and stuff. I could not. Okay. I was literally sitting there like, they were like screenshotting my face and sending it to me on Snap. They were like snapping my face and like sending it to me. And they're like, Chrissy, you look like you want to die. And like, I would actually register for a month of Summit Chasers in the Clink before I ever have to go back to situation. Like, it was so
the building part was the critiquing it afterwards and living through this experience together.
Yeah,
maybe. Okay. But I was like, this is the crazy. I think the experience of doing something as outrageous as that together was like the team building. But I was like, this is.
It's like how survivors bond after accidents and stuff like that. It's like
exactly.
It's like a shared experience. That sounds like.
Oh my God.
You got to be so careful with some of these things, because that type of exercise, it's something that somebody like, oh, I heard that this worked. It's something I'm willing to give a try. I will now sign up for it on my own free will, and then I will go and I will give it. I'm committed to giving it my all, because it's something that I would then do. But the other half of the planet would be like, that's ridiculous. I would never do that in a million years. I'm going to another job.
I would be like, get me off this train car. Do you know what I mean? Like, you know, like
absolutely crazy.
Crazy.
How do you measure if afterwards, if the team building offsite retreat was a success? How do you measure it?
What's it, engagement and like engagement at work, the energy levels at work? Like, I will say from my past experience with by like twice a year, once a year, literally for like 2-3 months afterwards, literally you could actually see that there was a difference in how people interacted with each other and how they engaged and how they handled conflict. And then it would kind of like dwindle down until we did the next one. And then it would be that same boost again. But I just had a thought about something else that was so awkward. They used to take us to the club sometimes in Vegas, and again, like, why are we putting ourselves in these situations with coworkers? But I will never forget, we were in Marquee at Cosmopolitan, and it was like, I don't know, 11:30 or midnight. There's bottles, we're drinking, and I'm kind of just like standing back because, again, like, I don't want to dance like Zach. You know how I dance in the club. I'm not going to dance in the club like I dance in the club with my coworkers there. Like, it's just freaking weird. So I was just like standing in the background, like whatever, bopping, chilling, and I'm drinking, and the freaking, I'm not going to say his title, but anyway, he comes up to me. He's like, he's up there, and he starts talking to me about people at work. He's like, so it's probably a weird time to do this, but like, what do you think about the process around this? I was like, we're in the club right now. I don't want to talk to you about freaking work. Like, what are we doing? So I just feel like there's a way to navigate team building with, like, let's not put us in super weird social environments. Like, you can't be yourself in the club with your coworkers. At least I can't be. But like, I don't know. It's weird. Shit's weird.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Awkward.
Chantal, she dances like a very
We don't need to go
modest,
there.
very modest, very rigid almost individual. I don't know when she said that, Chantal was
Now
like,
this
"What?"
makes me want to suggest let's go dancing together. I do think
Yeah.
it depends on the team, because I do feel like it'd be so different, the four of us versus in some different environments.
Yeah.
But then, I mean, where do you draw that? Like, there's sort of like friendships, there's coworker friends, there's like, I think, various different flavors of that.
For sure. For sure. There's a time and place. And like, there's different groups that work well together in those settings, but not the entire
and you
company.
start thinking about like introvert versus extrovert, and like, what's going to work for everyone, and do you sort of rotate through things? I feel like during COVID, I mean, I've always worked remote, and we had some fun remote building activities, but then, going back to work, or how do you know? People just started begging for, can we please get together in person? We miss each other. And we just couldn't. We couldn't make it work. So we started to make client visits sort of the way that we were able to see each other. There was a whole lot of cost cutting in the company, but we did some fun things virtually. We each made gingerbread houses around the holidays. So that's like individual, but then you can kind of bring it to the team. Check in on your progress. Everybody always was overwhelmed with like how much work they actually are, and then always swears never to do it. And we do things like that again. I had one coworker who actually sent letters in the mail with like envelopes with keywords in them. And it was a little bit of an improv exercise. So it was slightly uncomfortable for those who don't really like being on the spot, but it was a fun sort of physical world meets digital world concept. There's some good stuff out there.
You should put together some of your best like remote team building events.
Yeah.
I think that's one thing that people are like really trying to struggle with. Like, how do you bring in like real life into the digital world? I was also going to say, I do think it's okay. Here's what I think is important about team building. Number one, you should have some type of structure, because when people get together and it's totally like free for all, they don't know what to do. That's when people get in trouble. It's so awkward. People hate it. It's a terrible experience. So like having some type of agenda or structure to the day, like really helps remove the awkwardness of like, what should I do next? Who should I be talking to? How do I get started? Right? Because a lot of times your team is meeting for the first time in person. And so like, that's another aspect. And building a relationship like over Zoom is one thing. And then when you're in person, you're like, oh my God, is this going to translate? Because you know this person so well over the phone. And then is it weird if I'm like, hi, like, or you know what I mean? Like, it's like this level of like comfort, but then you're also like, oh my God, actually there's like the elephant in the room that this is the first time we're actually meeting in person. And then
how about,
I was one other thing I was gonna say, like team build with like like understand the segmentation of the team building. If you're like an executive and the whole org is together, you have to show up differently than like if you go out with just your team or like maybe a certain level of leadership within the organization, then maybe you can go to the club and like you could drink some bottles and like talk about process that might be driving everyone crazy. Because I actually do think that is really fun too. Like, you know, being able to talk about business in a very unserious setting is like that also brings a level of like casualness and openness, I think, to conversations around things that are really contentious at work. You know what I mean? Kind of just like makes it not that big of a deal. So those are my only two reactions to
some good ideas come from that too.
Great.
Yeah.
Like really like creative. That's when you're more creative. But I like one aspect of that is like with your team, it's very different when it's your team as opposed to sales, marketing, customer service, and everybody together sort of thing. And then like for smaller companies too, that's a lot different because I've worked with a lot of smaller where it's basically like 2-3 founders and like their number twos. And then that like you're going to war together for a long period of time. Like long period of time is relative, like 1 to 2 years. Like you're late nights, 24/7 in some cases, just nonstop. You know each other's families. You know how each other smells after you've been in the same office for 20 hours. Like that. Like that's a very different. Like that approach to that type of team building is very different. What'd you say?
So it's too much team building.
That's too much team building at that point. That's just survival. That's just trying to get the business off the ground. That's just we're just trying to get this next round of funding smell, right? Like that type of team building could look a little bit different. Like I always go back to when I read I can't remember Mark Randolph's book, the original co-founder, one of the original co-founders of Netflix. Like their team building when they were just in this raggedy little office. Like the ceiling was falling out and they were just trying to get started. Like their team building was very like, let's go to a vineyard with everybody for like 3 days and just get to know each other on this like super personal level outside of them grinding every day in the office sort of thing. Like they could do that. But then as they got bigger, they absolutely like that just didn't work. But when they were in that initial, like we're all in this together sort of thing, like when you can do that, but then it's really important to have a really clear line in the sand and like, okay, we're not all in this together anymore. Like this is for some of you, it's a 9 to 5. You're on payroll. You're here because we love your skill set and you match the culture, but you're not like in this with us, right? We're not going to expect you to bleed and die for the company at this point. Like really understanding when that line is drawn. And then maybe the team building looks a little bit different than getting on a yacht for a week with everybody. That could be awkward, but yeah. So Christy, sum this all up for us.
Okay. Well, I think it's very important to understand how people prefer to make personal connections, but I do think it's very important to have those connections with your coworkers outside of your business interactions, because at the end of the day, people work with people and they work for a business or on a business. And I think that is really like, if we bring this all the way back to our networking and dating episode, I think like those personal relationships that you build with your coworkers are actually what will project you like into your career, right? So I think whether it's at that company or not, right? So I think like that is really what you have to put a premium on, is your ability to build meaningful relationships with your coworkers or a peer group. How you do it, there's a million ways to decide how to do that. But I would just be thoughtful when you're putting those things together. And I would also say use team building moments to celebrate accomplishments. I think there's so much focus on team building at random times during the business cycle. But a lot of leaders don't stop after you've accomplished something like incredibly meaningful as a team, and actually use that moment to celebrate together and to team build. And I think when you're in these moments of appreciation, it's way easier to be vulnerable and like see the positive, contributions that your team members make. And those are the moments that will carry you into the high friction, execution periods of the business.
Chrissy, I love what you just said there. And it made me think of like this idea around micro moments of team building. I mean, they happen all the time, and they're not, and yes, there's like the structured team building and like the dedicated time to do that with activities and going off site. But then there's all these little moments during the day, during the week where, and it might be, I don't know how much that's like team building or team culture, but just showing up for each other in these little moments or having these quick conversations at the top of, or at the end of calls. My team was like really heavy in Slack, and we, especially with emojis, and that kind of became the way that we connected. And, I don't know. I think even just little things like that can make a big difference.
Yeah. I think that's a good point.
I know.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was saying, I know I ragged on team building because that's what we were talking about, but it is so freaking important. And I used to, with my previous team, every single month we met and had just an hour dedicated for us to just like unwind as human beings, understand each other, learn each other. But it's interesting because it is like, is it team culture? Is it team building? One of my favorite things that we created was we had just a shared Google sheet, and it had a tab for every single person. We had their address. We had a list of like, what's their favorite coffee drink? What's like a little pick-me-up gift that they just absolutely love? What is their favorite genre to read? What are some of their hobbies? And literally that team, if someone was having a shit day, they would go to that tab out of their own expense and actually send a little gift to people. Like that was the coolest thing. And just like creating a space for people to celebrate each other. And then sometimes like we had somebody who was having a baby. Between us, we like put our own money in and actually did a virtual baby shower for them and sent them a few gifts. And like seeing that side of it is so incredible. And it's absolutely worth putting the time into team building. And it's having the intention around it of like, what are you actually trying to do with your team building? What do you want the outcome to be? Do you want people to understand each other, have each other's backs, like get to know each other on an individual level, learn how they communicate, how they solve problems, how they see things? What is the reason for the team building that you're doing? And once you have that nailed down, you can create the most incredible team culture because you've put the emphasis on it. So I just want to say that because I know that I have like ragged on it and joked about this and that. I am a huge advocate of team building. It just has to be done in the right way and with intention. And then the outcomes that you can create are so impactful. Like I've never seen a team that went to bat for each other with the way that team did. And it just like that speaks volumes to building the right culture and putting an emphasis on that connection piece.
And you could be any level within the organization
for sure.
Team building. Like I think also it doesn't only need to be the leader that organizes it.
Agreed.
Definitely one thing I would say is that it's not to be a Band-Aid, and you all hit the point,
right.
Hit the nail on the head. Like it can't be a Band-Aid for just shitty culture. Like everyone's not getting along. Let's do an off-site thing. And then they're somewhat getting along for a month or 3 months afterwards. And then it's like, oh, everybody hates each other again and performance is dropping. Like it's not some Band-Aid. And I know a lot of companies, not a lot, I know companies that do that. They pour a lot into these offsites because they see the spike right after. And then they see the quick drop, and then they invest a lot in like these. Just it's not a Band-Aid. It's something that if you focus on the micro, like Chrissy said, I think it was Chrissy that said it. If you focus on those micro and take advantage of those micro, and also just there's something about just solving like a crazy problem together that you're just like, we just did that. Like overcoming a challenge together is huge, and then celebrating it in some sort of way, I think is huge.
I think your oh, sorry. Can I say one more thing? Your point to it not being a Band-Aid, I think, and like you're like, if everybody hates each other, we can't just do team building and then think that it's going to work. But that also is not even the root cause. Like the root cause, if you've got people who hate each other, you've got the wrong people in your team because you're not attracting people who are value aligned with your organization and with the culture that you're creating. So I think that if you've got that going on, you need to actually look at who you're bringing into your company.
Or the processes
Or the
you're
processes,
just
yeah.
efficient, everybody's running into each other and they're just annoyed because they can't perform.
Things aren't
properly.
clear. A lot of the time it's around lack of clarity, lack of resources, and so then as a leadership team, you have to fix that.
It sounds like the fix to everybody's problem is to sign up for the Summit Chaser Strategy Board Challenge coming up on November 19th and get clear on what y'all need to do and set up those foundations so that your business can be successful and prosperous, and get that plan for 2025, 26, 27, 28, and so on. Does anybody have any ending words for this amazing show that we put on today? Other than
I would love to hear what other people, I haven't seen much in the comments, or at least not on the platform I'm looking at, but what other cool team building activities have people done, and or horror stories? Let's hear them.
Yeah.
Oh God, there's probably.
So
I mean,
many.
I went on Reddit before this and got a couple, but we just didn't need the slides. But some of them were
deep group
they
therapy.
were bad.
Nightmare.
Yeah, deep group. Yeah. So we were given the worksheet
God.
complete. Proudest moment. What's your future holding? What's the saddest moment? Ugh.
Kneel in front of you?
Oh, no way.
Yeah, kneel in front of you and put their stickers on a sheet of paper you're holding and tell you what their description.
Who came up with this?
Oh, I would die.
So
I would literally die.
Building sandcastles on the beach on a hot day. Hired an improv group. Apparently that one was, so this one's actually pretty funny. After an opening skit, which was admittedly pretty funny, we were assigned different animals and we went around the room telling people the qualities they shared with their assigned animal. That could get bad. Great if you were randomly assigned a lion or an eagle, not so much for pigs and sloths.
Pigs are super smart.
Yeah, but that's not what most people go
And
to.
sloths are like cute and cuddly, so I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, you're just a positive person. You're a morning person. So you're.
I am.
If she was hungry and it was after 6 p.m., her answers would be completely different. So would mine. The worst one we had to toss. The worst one I had was where we had to toss a beanbag around and said what we liked about the person we were tossing it to.
Oh Lord.
Okay, start, but then we came to round 2 where we shared our opportunities for improvement about the person we were tossing it to. We went from not knowing each other to actively disliking each other in about 30 minutes.
Dude, how aggressive!
In theory, good idea.
It's like a soft toss with like what you like, and then it's like they're like pelting each other. Like
your opportunity, that's like your opportunity for like one thing that drives me nuts is like condescension, and like your opportunity for like that. Just that's what it seems to be. It's like an opportunity for people to. I don't know. It just seems so potentially terrible. Again, good in theory. It's like, let's all be honest and share, what you could work on. And then everyone will have a list of things they can improve upon. And instead it's like, I fucking hate the way you eat your lunch. Like, absolutely terrible.
That's a whole nother kettle of fish. That's a whole
literally.
topic.
Yeah.
Literally.
Also though, Chrissy, what you said earlier, this is such a random way to end it. So Zach, we're gonna have to find another way to do this. But Chrissy, when you were like, when you have to admit that you're meeting people in person for the first time, I'll never forget every single time we went on the trip, because our company was growing all the time. When you see people online and then you see them in person and you're like, how do you look literally completely different than how you look on Zoom or how you look on the screen? Like, it is so crazy, the difference. I remember seeing some people and I'd be like, wait, are you so-and-so? And then they're like, yeah. And you're like, oh, okay, cool. And like, it was like, they could be like 6 feet tall, or they might be super short. And you're like, I thought that for some reason, like we put heights in our heads about people or like, just how big, how tall, whatever. And then you can get in person. You're like, oh, it's completely different than what I thought online. So interesting.
That was a weird thing to come out of COVID too, is when everyone started asking each other how tall they were. Do you remember that? Like, I was like,
Really?
Okay.
I was like, all roads lead back to like chat rooms, you know what I mean? Just like,
sure.
What's your age?
Good old, what was that called? Hotmail? Not Hotmail. It was the chat.
AIM.
Well, hello.
Look, I'm from Hicktown in Canada. We did not have that.
MSN,
that's
the one.
What
What was your guys' username?
We had
What was your
MSN.
username?
Cool Skater 101, but cool was spelled KEWL.
Whoa. Like ice skater, like hockey skater, or
See, that's the way I. But then everyone's like, "Are you skateboard?" And I'm like,
Right.
"No, I play hockey."
hence the
Chrissy,
cool.
what was yours?
I was Cutie3333. Cutie was spelled
Let's-
out CUTIE.
Let's go, Chantal.
Queen Bee 861. The numbers meant nothing. Don't
I
know.
love it. I love it. Mine,
What was yours?
you and I, same page. I was Lil Cutie, but LIL, Cutie 113.
Amazing. Wow. That's crazy, right?
So
That
Bunch of
is.
people high on themselves.
That was a good icebreaker when I was working at AOL. We asked
Oh, I
everyone in
bet.
the presentation what their first screen name was. That
I
is
love it.
It's so cringy when you like go
Oh,
back.
yeah.
so funny. It's
Or
so
like your first emails.
Yeah.
Like your first
I think mine
email
was
name.
also Lil Cutie 113, I'm pretty
Oh,
sure.
was it?
At
Yeah.
MSN or AOL, I can't remember.
Yeah, just like the naivety of like, yeah, we'll be young forever and we'll use these. Like, it'll be fine.
Dude, when I was in recruiting, you know how many people had those as their email addresses for their resume?
Still?
And I was like, okay.
Is that does that give you the ick when you're hiring somebody? Was that
I
like
mean,
a
I don't even
recruiting
know.
ick?
in like early 2000s, because that's what it was. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like that was the industry standard for the marketplace. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But then it was like once everyone started getting like Gmail and like you could like change your address, but like you were like a late adopter, then that was the bar. That was the threshold of
That's
like,
funny.
yeah.
That's that is really funny. I love that. That was good. That was our little icebreaker. That was our team building moment.
It was fun.
There you go.
Sharing what our chat handle names were. But yeah, I don't know how to end it now. So I think that's a great place to end it on. I think I'm just going to put up Martha Stewart and thank everybody for being here. But really, we really do thank you for being here. We did have quite a few people on again. A few on X and over on the old LinkedIn. But we really appreciate it. And obviously everybody who's going to be watching this afterwards on the recording, we're going to chop this up. It's going to be everywhere. But thank you. We're excited for this new format that we're doing with this. But again, what we're even more excited about is the 5-day strategy core challenge. So if you haven't yet, we still have some spots left for November 19th to the 23rd. So that is Tuesday to Friday at 5 p.m. and then Saturday, the last day at 8 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. So it'll take over at the spot of this, and then we'll be moving this back to after that class. But until next time, everybody, keep chasing your next summit.